The Galactic Enterprise. Dr. Amara Johnson stepped out of her sleek black hover car onto the polished floors of Johnson Intergalactic Motors, the largest spacecraft dealership in the Sol system. The massive showroom stretched across 3 city blocks on Mars Station Alpha, displaying everything from personal shuttles to military-grade destroyers. Holographic advertisements danced between the vessels, showcasing the latest Earth-human engineering marvels that had revolutionized space travel. At 35, Amara had built an empire that spanned 12 star systems. Her company didn't just sell spaceships, they manufactured the most advanced vessels in known space. Human innovation had surprised the galactic community when Earth joined the Intergalactic Trade Federation only 50 years ago. While other species had been traveling space for millennia, humans brought something unique: adaptability and relentless improvement. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled space commerce for 3,000 years with their bioships. The crystalline Vorthan Collective dominated with their energy-based vessels. But humans? Humans took the best of everything, improved it, and made it affordable. Amara's company had become the fastest-growing manufacturer in the galaxy, earning respect and fear from established powers. Today, she was visiting her newest flagship location unannounced. Corporate had received complaints about declining sales and poor customer service. As CEO, she believed in hands-on leadership. Sometimes the best way to understand a problem was to experience it firsthand. The showroom buzzed with activity. Families from various human colonies examined personal transports while business executives discussed fleet purchases with sales representatives. Near the luxury section, a group of off-world miners admired a heavy-duty cargo hauler designed for asteroid belt operations. Amara wore a simple business suit, her natural hair styled professionally. She carried herself with quiet confidence, observing the sales floor dynamics. Several employees hurried past without acknowledging her presence. She made mental notes about customer service protocols that needed reinforcement. Marcus Webb, the dealership manager, stood near his office overlooking the main floor. A tall, pale man in his 50s, he surveyed his domain with obvious pride. Webb had managed luxury dealerships on 3 different worlds before Amara's company hired him. His resume boasted impressive sales figures and strong customer satisfaction ratings. On paper, he seemed perfect for the position. However, Webb harbored resentments that his employment file never revealed. He came from old colonial money, families who had established the first Mars settlements when space travel was primitive and dangerous. These pioneers considered themselves the true elite of human space civilization. Webb particularly resented how new money entrepreneurs like Amara had seemingly appeared overnight to challenge established hierarchies. Amara approached the nearest sales representative, a young woman named Sarah Chen, who was organizing brochures at an information kiosk. Sarah looked up with a professional smile that faltered slightly when she saw Amara. "Good morning," Amara said warmly. "I'm interested in looking at some of your premium spacecraft." Sarah glanced nervously toward Webb's office. Certainly. What type of vessel are you considering? Personal transport, cargo, or maybe something smaller for planetary travel?" "I'm thinking about a fleet purchase, actually. Something substantial for a growing business." Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly. Fleet purchases represented serious money, often running into millions of credits. She gestured toward the premium section where the most expensive models were displayed under specialized lighting. "Our top-of-the-line models are this way. The Aurora-class destroyers are popular with security firms, and our new Prometheus freight haulers have revolutionized cargo transport efficiency." As they walked between the gleaming spacecraft, Amara asked detailed technical questions that demonstrated deep knowledge of propulsion systems, life support capabilities, and defensive technologies. Sarah seemed increasingly uncomfortable, frequently looking back toward management offices. "These are impressive," Amara commented, running her hand along the hull of a sleek patrol vessel. "The quantum drive integration is particularly elegant. Who designed this propulsion system?" I, I'm not really sure about the technical specifications, Sarah admitted. Maybe you should speak with our fleet sales specialist. Before Amara could respond, Marcus Webb's voice cut across the showroom floor like a blade. Sarah! His tone carried clear disapproval. What exactly is going on here? Webb strode toward them with purposeful steps, his expression growing darker as he took in the scene. Other customers and employees began to notice the tension building in the premium section. Conversations quieted as people sensed confrontation approaching. Mr. Webb, Sarah said quickly, this customer is interested in a potential fleet purchase. Webb's cold gaze fixed on Amara, taking in her appearance with obvious skepticism. Fleet purchase? His tone suggested the idea was ridiculous. Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion here. Amara maintained her composure, though she recognized the familiar pattern developing. No confusion. I'm exploring options for expanding my company's transportation capabilities. I see. Webb's smile was condescending. And what company would that be? A growing enterprise in the technology sector. Webb laughed, a sound lacking any warmth. Look, miss, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but these vessels start at 2 million credits each. Fleet purchases typically run 10 to 50 million depending on specifications. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable looking at our pre-owned section. The showroom had grown noticeably quieter. Other customers pretended to examine nearby displays while clearly listening to the exchange. Several employees had stopped working entirely, sensing drama unfolding. Amara's voice remained steady. I understand the pricing structure. That's not a concern for my company. Webb's expression hardened. Listen, I don't know what game you're playing, but I've been in this business for 20 years. I can spot someone wasting my time from across the galaxy. He gestured dismissively. These ships aren't toys. They're serious investments for serious business people. I am a serious business person. Really? Webb's voice grew louder, attracting more attention. And I suppose you just walked in here with 50 million credits burning a hole in your pocket? Amara felt the familiar sting of assumptions based on her appearance. Throughout her rise in the business world, she had encountered countless people who couldn't believe a young black woman could command real power or wealth. Usually, she found ways to educate such individuals diplomatically. Today felt different. My financial capabilities aren't determined by your assumptions, she replied calmly. Webb stepped closer, his voice taking on an aggressive edge. My assumptions? Lady, I deal with real buyers every day. Corporate executives, military procurement officers, established business owners. They don't just wander in off the street making grand claims about fleet purchases. Sarah looked increasingly distressed as the situation escalated. Other sales staff began whispering among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with their manager's behavior, but uncertain how to intervene. Perhaps, Webb continued, you should consider what you can actually afford. We have some nice used shuttles in the back lot that might be more appropriate for your budget. The insult hung in the air like a challenge. Around them, the showroom had fallen almost completely silent. Customers and employees alike watched the confrontation unfold, sensing they were witnessing something significant. Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing through options. She could reveal her identity immediately and watch Webb's world collapse in real time. She could walk away and address the situation through corporate channels, or she could see exactly how far his prejudices would take him. I think you're making a mistake, she said quietly. Webb laughed harshly. The only mistake here would be wasting more of my time. Security. 2 security guards approached hesitantly. Both looked uncomfortable with the situation, glancing between their manager and the well-dressed woman who showed no signs of causing actual trouble. Escort this woman out, Webb commanded. She's disrupting our business with unrealistic demands. The guards hesitated. Sir, one of them said uncertainly. She hasn't actually done anything wrong. She's here under false pretenses, wasting our time with impossible claims about fleet purchases. Remove her. Amara stood perfectly still, allowing the moment to crystallize. Every person in the showroom would remember this scene. Webb was about to make a decision that would define his career and possibly his future. "I'm going to ask you one more time to reconsider," she said, her voice carrying an authority that made several nearby employees look up sharply. Webb's face flushed with anger. "Are you threatening me? In my own dealership?" He turned to the guards. "I gave you an order. Remove this woman immediately or you'll be looking for new jobs tomorrow." The security guards reluctantly moved forward, their reluctance obvious to everyone watching. The larger man spoke apologetically. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we need to ask you to leave." Amara nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "Very well. But I think Mr. Webb should know exactly what he's just done." She reached into her purse and withdrew a business card, extending it toward Webb with deliberate precision. He snatched it irritably, glancing down at the simple black card with silver lettering. The color drained from his face instantly. "Dr. Amara Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Johnson Intergalactic Motors." Webb stared at the card as if it might bite him. Around them, employees who recognized the name began whispering urgently. Several customers pulled out their personal devices, clearly recognizing the significance of what they were witnessing. "This is," Webb stammered. "This has to be some kind of joke." Amara smiled for the first time since entering the dealership. It wasn't a particularly warm smile. "No joke. Mr. B. Webb, I'm the owner of this company. Every ship in this showroom, every employee here, every credit of profit generated by this location belongs to my organization." Her voice carried across the silent showroom like a judgment. "And you just refused service to your own CEO." The revelation. The silence in the showroom stretched like a taut cable ready to snap. Marcus Webb stood frozen, the business card trembling in his hand as the magnitude of his mistake crashed down upon him. Around them, customers and employees processed what they had just witnessed with expressions ranging from shock to barely contained excitement. Amara allowed the moment to breathe, watching Webb's face cycle through disbelief, recognition, and dawning horror. She had learned long ago that sometimes the most powerful response was simply to let silence do the work. Sarah Chen, the sales representative, covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes wide with recognition. She had seen Dr. Johnson's image in company newsletters and training materials, but seeing her in person without the context of corporate messaging had prevented immediate identification. "Dr. Johnson," Sarah whispered, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize." Amara raised a gentle hand. "You have nothing to apologize for, Sarah. You were professional and helpful throughout our interaction." Webb finally found his voice, though it came out as a strangled croak. "This can't be real. You're really the CEO of Johnson Intergalactic Motors?" "Yes." Amara's tone remained calm and measured. "The woman you just had escorted out of her own dealership?" "Also, yes." The security guards had backed away significantly, clearly wanting no part in whatever was about to unfold. Other employees began gathering at a respectful distance, some recording the interaction on their personal devices, while others simply watched with fascination. Webb's training in crisis management seemed to have completely abandoned him. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he struggled to process the situation. "But your appearance, you don't look like—" "Like what, Mr. Webb?" Amara's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Please, complete that thought." The implied challenge hung in the air like a sword. Webb realized he was about to dig his grave even deeper, but his mouth seemed disconnected from his brain. Like someone who could afford— successful business owners usually what? Look like you? The question hit Webb like a physical blow. Around them, several customers began shaking their heads in disgust. A well-dressed Martian businessman near the luxury cruiser section spoke up loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is absolutely disgusting behavior," he declared. "I was considering a purchase here, but not anymore." His companion, an elegant woman in expensive clothing, nodded agreement. "We'll take our business elsewhere. This kind of discrimination has no place in civilized commerce." They walked toward the exit with obvious disdain, their departure prompting murmurs among other customers. Amara noticed several other potential buyers beginning to look uncomfortable, some moving toward the doors themselves. Webb finally realized the full scope of his disaster. Not only had he humiliated himself in front of his actual boss, but he was driving away, paying customers in real time. His racial prejudices had just cost him his career and the dealership significant revenue. "Dr. Johnson," he began desperately, "I can explain. This was all a misunderstanding. If I had known who you were—" Amara cut him off with a sharp look. "Stop, right there." Her voice commanded absolute attention. Even customers across the vast showroom turned to listen. "If you had known who I was, you would have treated me differently. That much is clear. But the question that matters is this: why should my identity change how you treat any customer?" Webb opened his mouth to respond, but Amara wasn't finished. "Every person who walks through these doors deserves respect and professional service, regardless of their appearance, background, or your assumptions about their financial capabilities. That's not just good business practice, it's basic human decency." She gestured to encompass the entire showroom. "This company was built on the principle that humanity's greatest strength is our diversity. We succeed in the galaxy because we don't all think alike, look alike, or come from the same backgrounds. When you discriminate against customers based on your prejudices, you're not just failing as a manager, you're betraying everything this company represents." A young intern named David Martinez stepped forward from the group of watching employees. "Dr. Johnson, I want you to know that Mr. Webb's behavior doesn't represent how most of us feel. We've been uncomfortable with some of his attitudes for months." Several other employees nodded agreement. An older sales representative named Patricia Williams spoke up. "There have been other incidents," Patricia said carefully. "Customers from the outer colonies, people with accents, women shopping alone for commercial vessels. Mr. Webb has a pattern of making assumptions about who belongs here." Webb's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. "That's completely untrue. I treat all customers fairly." "Do you?" Amara asked quietly. "Because what I just experienced suggests otherwise. And if my employees are willing to speak up about a pattern of behavior, it tells me this wasn't an isolated incident." She turned to address the gathered crowd of customers and staff. "I want everyone here to understand something important. This company's success depends entirely on serving customers with excellence, regardless of who they are or where they come from. We don't just sell spacecraft. We enable dreams, facilitate exploration, and connect communities across the galaxy. Every customer who chooses our products helps expand human presence in space." Her words resonated through the showroom. Several customers who had been moving toward the exits stopped to listen. The passion in her voice reminded everyone why Johnson Intergalactic Motors had become such a phenomenon in the galactic marketplace. "Furthermore," she continued, "discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's economically stupid. Some of our largest orders have come from customers who didn't look like traditional corporate executives. The mining cooperative that bought our largest fleet last year was led by a 24-year-old woman from the Saturn colonies. Our biggest military contract came from a former refugee who built a security empire. When you judge people by appearance, you lose opportunities." Webb tried one more desperate approach. "Dr. Johnson, surely you can understand my position. In this business, we encounter time wasters regularly. I was just trying to qualify leads efficiently. By assuming a black woman couldn't afford our products?" The blunt question silenced Webb completely. There was no way to answer without confirming his prejudices or making himself look even worse. Amara pulled out her personal communication device and activated its recording function. "Mr. Webb, as of this moment, you are terminated from employment with Johnson Intergalactic Motors. Your access codes will be revoked within the hour, and security will escort you from the premises after you collect your personal belongings." Webb's legs seemed to give out slightly. "You can't—" This was just a misunderstanding. This was discrimination, pure and simple. And beyond the moral implications, your behavior has already cost us customers today. I watched 3 different groups leave because of your unprofessional conduct. She gestured to Sarah Chen. "Ms. Chen, please contact Corporate Human Resources immediately. Inform them that I need a replacement manager here within 48 hours. Sarah nodded quickly, already reaching for her communication device. "Additionally," Amara continued, "I want exit interviews conducted with every employee here within the next week. If Mr. Webb has created a hostile work environment, I need to understand the full scope of the problem." Patricia Williams stepped forward again. "Dr. Johnson, if I may, most of the staff here are good people who believe in what this company represents. We've just been constrained by management that didn't share those values." Amara smiled genuinely for the first time since the confrontation began. "That's exactly what I was hoping to hear, Patricia. This location should be a flagship representation of our company culture. I want customers to leave here excited about their purchases and confident they've been treated with respect." Webb made one final desperate attempt to salvage his position. "Dr. Johnson, I have 20 years of experience in this industry. My sales numbers speak for themselves. Surely one mistake doesn't erase my entire track record?" Amara studied him with the cold assessment of someone who had built a galactic empire through careful judgment of character. "Mr. Webb, your sales numbers are adequate but not exceptional. Your customer satisfaction ratings have been declining for 6 months. And most importantly, your one mistake revealed fundamental character flaws that make you unsuitable for representing this company." She paused, letting her words sink in completely. "But beyond all that, what you demonstrated today wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. You chose to treat me with disrespect based on your assumptions about my race, gender, and economic status. You chose to escalate the situation rather than listen when I tried to correct your error. You chose to have me physically removed rather than question your own prejudices." The gathered crowd listened intently as she continued. "Those weren't errors in judgment, Mr. Webb. They were revelations of who you really are. And that person has no place in leadership at my company." The new dawn. 6 months later, Johnson Intergalactic Motors Mars Station Alpha location had become the highest-performing dealership in the company's network. The transformation wasn't just about numbers. It represented a fundamental shift in workplace culture that had rippled throughout the entire organization. Patricia Williams sat in her new office, reviewing quarterly reports with satisfaction. After Webb's termination, Amara had promoted her to general manager based on her 20 years of dedicated service and the respect she commanded from both colleagues and customers. The decision had proven brilliant. Under Patricia's leadership, the dealership had implemented new training protocols emphasizing cultural sensitivity and inclusive service. Every employee completed workshops on unconscious bias and customer relations. More importantly, the staff had embraced these changes enthusiastically, relieved to work in an environment that reflected their own values. The financial results spoke volumes. Monthly sales had increased by 40%. Customer satisfaction ratings reached company records, and the location had won 3 regional service awards. More significantly, the dealership had attracted entirely new customer segments who had previously felt unwelcome in luxury spacecraft showrooms. Amara arrived for her quarterly review visit to find the showroom bustling with diverse customers from across the solar system. A family of asteroid miners examined heavy-duty haulers, while a delegation from the Europa research stations discussed custom scientific vessels with enthusiastic sales representatives. Near the premium section, a group of young entrepreneurs from the outer colonies evaluated ships for their expanding courier service. The atmosphere was completely different from her previous visit. Employees moved with confidence and purpose, customers appeared relaxed and welcome, and the entire space hummed with productive energy. This was how she had always envisioned her dealerships operating. Patricia greeted her with a warm smile and genuine enthusiasm. "Dr. Johnson, welcome back. I think you're going to be very pleased with what we've accomplished." As they toured the facility, Patricia highlighted the changes implemented since Webb's departure. "We restructured our customer approach entirely. Instead of making assumptions based on appearance, our staff now begins every interaction by asking about the customer's specific needs and budget parameters. It's amazing how much more effective direct communication is compared to guesswork." They paused near a display where Sarah Chen was enthusiastically explaining propulsion system modifications to an elderly woman from the Belt Colonies who was purchasing her first personal transport vessel. The customer's questions were detailed and technical, revealing extensive knowledge despite her modest appearance. "That's exactly the kind of interaction we were missing before," Patricia noted. "Mrs. Nakamura there is a retired engineer who designed life support systems for deep space habitats. She knows more about spacecraft technology than most of our sales staff, but the previous management would have dismissed her immediately." Amara watched the interaction with approval. Sarah had grown tremendously in her new role as senior sales consultant, developing expertise in technical specifications that allowed her to engage meaningfully with sophisticated customers. They continued to the service department, where another transformation was evident. The customer waiting area, previously sterile and unwelcoming, now featured comfortable seating, refreshment stations, and interactive displays showcasing Johnson Intergalactic's latest innovations. Customers from various backgrounds chatted comfortably while waiting for their vessels to be serviced. "We discovered that many of our service customers were potential sales prospects," Patricia explained, "but they never felt comfortable in the showroom environment. Now we ensure every service visit becomes an opportunity for positive engagement." David Martinez, the young intern who had spoken up during Webb's termination, approached them with obvious excitement. He had been promoted to junior sales representative and was clearly thriving in the new environment. "Dr. Johnson, I wanted to thank you personally," he said earnestly. "The changes here have made this the kind of place I'm proud to work. Last week, I helped a teenage girl from the Mars Agricultural Domes purchase her first shuttle. She's starting a delivery service for farm-to-station fresh food transport. Under the old system, she never would have been taken seriously." Amara smiled at his enthusiasm. "That's exactly the kind of story I love to hear, David. Young entrepreneurs like her represent the future of human expansion in space. Our job is to enable their dreams, not judge their worthiness." In the conference room, Patricia presented detailed analytics that demonstrated the dealership's remarkable turnaround. Customer demographic data showed significant expansion into previously underrepresented markets. Repeat business had doubled, and referral rates had tripled. "The most interesting trend," Patricia noted, "is how word of mouth has transformed our reputation. Customers actively recommend us to their networks because they know they'll be treated with respect regardless of their background." She pulled up a holographic display showing customer testimonials and social media mentions. The reviews consistently praised the dealership's welcoming atmosphere and knowledgeable, respectful service. "There's something else," Patricia continued with obvious pride. "We've become a training model for other locations throughout the company. Corporate has sent managers from 12 different dealerships to observe our operations and learn from our approach." Amara felt deep satisfaction hearing about the cultural transformation. When she had fired Webb, some board members had questioned whether such a dramatic public action was necessary. The results spoke for themselves. As they concluded the facility tour, Amara noticed a familiar face among the customers. It was the Martian businessman who had walked out in disgust during Webb's discriminatory behavior 6 months earlier. He was now examining a luxury yacht with obvious interest. She approached him with curiosity. "Excuse me, sir. I believe you were here during some unpleasant circumstances several months ago." The businessman looked up with recognition and smiled broadly. "Dr. Johnson, yes, I was here when that horrible manager refused you service. I'm so glad to see the positive changes you've implemented." His companion, the elegant woman who had accompanied him previously, nodded agreement. "We've brought 3 different business associates here since then. The transformation has been remarkable." "What convinced you to return?" Amara asked. "Word travels fast in business circles," the businessman explained. "People began talking about this location as the best dealership experience in the system. When we needed to expand our corporate fleet, this was our first choice." He gestured toward the yacht he had been examining. "This purchase represents a significant investment for our company. We chose to make it here because we trust the integrity of your operation." As the day concluded, Amara gathered the entire dealership staff for an impromptu meeting. Employees assembled in the main showroom, their faces reflecting pride in their collective achievements. "6 months ago," she began, "this location experienced a crisis that revealed fundamental problems with leadership and culture. Today, you've transformed it into a model of excellence that other dealerships aspire to emulate." Applause rippled through the group, but Amara raised her hand to continue. "The success you've achieved here proves something important about human nature. When people are empowered to treat others with dignity and respect, when they're encouraged to see potential rather than make assumptions, remarkable things happen." She gestured to encompass the thriving showroom around them. "This dealership now serves customers who never felt welcome before. You've enabled entrepreneurs to start new businesses, helped families find reliable transportation, and supported research missions that expand human knowledge. That impact extends far beyond sales figures." Patricia stepped forward. "Dr. Johnson, I think I speak for everyone when I say that your leadership gave us permission to be our best selves. We always wanted to provide excellent service to everyone, but we needed management that shared those values." Several employees nodded agreement, and Sarah Chen spoke up. "Working here now feels like we're part of something meaningful. We're not just selling spacecraft, we're helping build humanity's future in space." As the meeting concluded and employees returned to their duties, Amara reflected on the broader implications of the transformation. The incident with Webb had been painful but ultimately valuable, revealing problems that needed addressing while providing an opportunity for meaningful change. The success of this location had influenced company-wide policies on customer service, diversity training, and management accountability. Other dealerships had adopted similar approaches, creating a cascading effect throughout the organization. More importantly, the story had spread beyond company boundaries. Industry publications had covered the transformation, and business schools now used it as a case study in organizational culture change. The narrative had become part of a larger conversation about discrimination in commercial settings and the business benefits of inclusive practices. Standing in the bustling showroom, watching employees and customers from dozens of different backgrounds interact with mutual respect and shared purpose, Amara felt profound satisfaction. This was how human enterprise should function in the galactic community: diverse, innovative, and welcoming to all who shared the dream of expanding among the stars. The universe was vast and full of possibilities, but its greatest treasures would only be discovered by those wise enough to judge others by their character rather than their appearance. In that lesson, humanity's greatest strength had always been its diversity of thought, background, and perspective. Webb's prejudices had cost him everything, but his termination had created space for something better to flourish. Sometimes the most valuable lessons came from negative examples, showing clearly what not to do while illuminating the path toward excellence. As Amara prepared to leave for her next appointment, she noticed a young girl from the orbital habitats examining the pilot training simulators with obvious fascination. Her clothes were simple, her accent marked her as coming from working-class origins. But her eyes held the unmistakable spark of ambition and intelligence. Under the old management, that girl might have been ignored or discouraged. Now, Sarah Chen was approaching her with a warm smile, ready to discuss scholarship programs and entry-level training opportunities. The conversation that followed might well change the trajectory of a young life, opening doors to possibilities that previously seemed impossible. That, Amara realized, was the true measure of their success. Not just the spacecraft they sold, but the dreams they enabled and the barriers they removed. In the vast expanse of space, humanity's greatest achievements would come from including everyone in the journey forward.